Between 80 to nearly 100% of the people who died from our recent viral outbreak had metabolic syndrome and/or full-blown diabetes. The way to prevent that is to not eat a high carbohydrate diet, and that's just like total simple logic.
Hi, this is Kay from Breaking the Spells. You people who know me in person, which is many, go by Kathleen. That is my full name. Kay is a nickname. I want to talk to you about what is the reason that we wear these masks, or we have to wear these masks when we're in public. I had that mask on so that if you're curious at all what virus this is about, the mask is a dead giveaway. Though, because of videos being taken down and discriminated against, I chose not to name the virus we're speaking of that may make us need to wear things like this when we're out in public. This video has a purpose, which is to clear up misinformation. It has two main purposes. It's really designed mostly for the people that I know in person and the questions that you may ask. I have a playlist called Immune System and that word, virus, and it basically it's twofold. It's balanced. One is it goes into clearing up a lot of the misinformation, and it also goes into what you can do about it or any other illness/virus that you want to build your immune system up for so you can resist it. I must say my usual disclaimer, this video is not intended to prevent, diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. I am a citizen scientist and I'm providing information for you to look into and consider for yourselves. What I did do is on my playlist called Immune System and C Virus, I have so many experts, doctors and researchers that are highly respected whose opinion I think was good enough to be put on my playlist. Since metabolic syndrome is implicated in most of the C word virus deaths, if they were really the C word virus, because the testing, as you'll see if you look at my playlist and look at the experts and the data, that most of the testing is a mess and not accurate at all. There's a high amount of false positives. But if the numbers were actually true of the actual deaths, the main thing that I think personally that you need to know is how to have a great metabolism and great immune system. Metabolic syndrome is usually either pre-diabetes or diabetes, and I will go into that in just a minute. But because of inflammation and immune systems that go wacky or potentially wacky when your metabolism is out of whack, I think it's time for a very low carb diet. Most people are actually either insulin resistant, a type 2 diabetic, or a type 1 diabetic. If you look up my playlist called Low Carb for Diabetes, you can see that when you exclude the type 1 diabetics and you include everyone else, most of those people, basically 75% of those people, have a metabolic syndrome. They're either a type 2 diabetic or on their way. What this means is their insulin is too high, even with normal blood sugar. The people that were tested, which was almost 15,000 people by Dr. Joseph Kraft, were, of those almost 15,000 people, 75% of them actually had an insulin irregularity. And those people, many of those people, had normal blood sugar. You cannot tell your state of insulin health by just testing your blood sugar, because the insulin will continue to rise to compensate for the carbohydrates/sugars that have come in the system. And it only when the insulin the pancreas begins to wear out and the insulin begins to not work at all anymore, can you actually see the damage done. That's when, if you had your insulin properly tested by something like the Kraft test, not just a fasting insulin test, but a test that shows the state of insulin anywhere between 1, 2, and 5 hours after the test begins, then you can see the irregularities and how insulin does not fall after consuming carbohydrates. Well, again, those are 75% of people who are not type 1 diabetic. What this does is it creates damage to the blood vessels from both the excess carbohydrates and from the high insulin. Then when the blood vessels are damaged, everything is damaged. Your entire immune system. And the inflammation that's caused by the high sugar and carbohydrates all break down into sugar, so we count them as sugar. The damage done causes this blood vessel damage, kidney damage, eye damage, sometimes even the loss of parts of the body because they become rotten, necrotic. They may even get gangrene, which is usually in the type 1 diabetics. But either way, this damage that's done by the body wasting also causes a really high inflammation level. And then your body creates what's called a cytokine cascade, which is the biggest problem when people get really sick from this particular virus. The irony of ironies, one of the first, besides toilet paper, our precious toilet paper, for cleanliness, the thing that was most missing from the stores was the junk food and carbohydrates. If you're storing up food, it is time for a very, very, very low carb diet. If you're not storing up food, it is still time for a very, very, very low carb diet. And if you're considering prepping or preparing for food being short, if you store up carbohydrates and sugars and genetically modified food and highly processed food, you are actually worsening your immune system. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm a citizen scientist, but I'm absolutely convinced of this. It is up to you to do the research and look into it. I have, besides the playlist called Low Carb for Diabetes, I have a ketogenic playlist also, and my most important playlist that's the most timely right now, which is Immune System and C or blank virus. Okay, other than that, the irony is just breathtaking. I speak to so many people about what to do about the risks. And so please, if you're going to store up food, store up high quality, high fat, and high protein food, and certain nutrients that are not carbohydrates. If you have your diet pretty much in line, and you're already doing a very low carb diet, which in effect becomes a high fat diet if you do normal amounts of protein. If you are, and you want to know, as I've explained to many people in person, if you're going to do supplements, the main supplements to include are first vitamin D3 and K2. I've spoken about that many times. I wouldn't advise personally taking a lot of vitamin D3 without K2 because K2 makes the D3 do the right thing. After that, the two most important, possibly most likely missing nutrients in your body are zinc and selenium. If you can't find them to take them as a supplement because there's a run on zinc and selenium right now, if you cannot find them, just know that the highest food in all of those minerals is seaweed. I do organic seaweed. I've taken it as a supplement since the mid-'80s. Now, if you're not into seaweed, consider using nori toasted seaweed. It comes in sheets and you can wrap your food in it. Like take food, plop it in it, and roll it up and eat it. Just be sure to not get the one that has added ingredients. So that one is more palatable than a lot of other seaweed sources. And the main seafood, it would be shellfish or small fish, truly food that's not farm raised, that is from the salty sea and as what you call clean as possible. The other nutrient that is in very short supply in most people, especially people who eat a high carb diet, who don't have grass-fed animal fat, would be vitamin A. The suggested, according to other experts, the suggested total amount per day should be about 10,000 IUs. This is natural vitamin A, which comes from animal fat, especially things like the liver, if the meat were pasture raised, or if you got it in, for example, in a high quality cod liver oil, because vitamin A is stored up in the liver. So my top supplements, again, would be D3 plus K2, zinc and selenium sources, one form or another, and natural vitamin A. And natural vitamin A is not the beta carotene and the carotenoid family. Those are from plant foods. And you people who are vegans or don't want to eat much animal fat are going to be low in this real vitamin A, because the vitamin A from plants has to be converted by your body into the actual true usable fat soluble vitamin A, and it's very, very, very inefficient. A couple more things. I have playlists that I'm going to put in the description of this video that will fill in all the rest of the blanks most likely that you could ever need. And after that, hopefully by next weekend, I'm going to have another video that follows up on this, but is much broader, with a special guest named Phil Escott. He's a very smart guy and has a wonderful YouTube channel, and I've been waiting a long time to get together with him, and I can't wait, because we're going to just put all kinds of things out there. And meanwhile, really consider, if you haven't done it already, it's time for a very low carb diet.